Welcome to the Advancement Podcast. This is Taylor Schote with Tim Ware, the president of Advancement Coaching and Consulting. Today, we will be discussing practical insights for pastors and church leaders to advance your life, your work, and your ministry. Are you ready to advance?
We'd like to thank today's sponsor, First Assembly DFW and Pastor Joe McCrary in Bedford, Texas.
Well, Tim, it's great to be back with you.
Good to be back. Always. Love it.
As always, man, it's always a joy to be back with you and talking about how we can advance ourselves and the kingdom of God and just all the good things that are going on. I know today you want to talk about the discussion around...
Now, this isn't just me. We go through these lists together and we work this out together. So
I always feel like coming here, it's kind of like this personal counseling session for this personal leadership coaching that all of you get to benefit from. But I leave thinking, man, I'm going to be a better leader today. So,
well, I appreciate that. Don't puff my ego too much today.
No, I know today we want to talk about how to harness authority without stealing authority. And I'll just tell you, as the associate pastor of the Bridge Church, this is my world. What's been given to me and some of the areas that I am leading in, I've been giving a lot of authority, but I always have to go back and remember, hey, I'm not the leader here. Yeah,
well, this is actually when I've talked about the fact that when before we started this, I sent out a question, what could we talk about? And this authority issue is really kind of one that was on the list. I had a guy that's a staff guy, and he's like, he talked about the relationship. There's kind of a list of them, and that are this relational component between senior leaders and subordinate leaders, whether they be staff pastors. And the truth is, this could even go down to staff pastors and volunteers.
Absolutely.
Now, authority's a big issue. Those of us that are drivers like you and I are, I've always told people, I said, I'm a great follower, but we got to be going somewhere. Otherwise, I'm taking over.
Absolutely.
I can't sit back for a little.
Yeah, I know that world. I'm looking, as soon as I get in the room, where are we going and who's driving?
That's it. That's right. If you're driving, I'm good.
I'm good. And if no one's driving and we're not going somewhere, baby, get ready because I'm going to drive.
I'm going to drive or I'm going to leave.
That's right.
I'm not going to sit here and I'm not. You're wasting my time.
Right.
So I get that. Well, I think that one of the first things that we have to realize if we're going to talk about not stealing authority, and let me say this: a senior leader can steal authority from a subordinate or a staff pastor as quickly and maybe even more quickly and easily than a staff person can steal the authority from the person they report to or their leader.
Tim, that's so good. I've never served in a senior leadership role, but that probably is the best way to articulate maybe some of what we feel at times that happens that we, as a staff pastor, we don't know. It gets really awkward really quick because we think you delegated authority to us or gave us decision to make it authority to make a decision, and then all of a sudden it gets taken back, and we don't know how to process that. So I'm excited that we're going to talk about this.
I think that there's probably less authority stolen from a one leader to their subordinate than there is from the person who is a staff person stealing authority from volunteers in a church.
Yeah.
Volunteers often are a little precarious anyway, but the moment we put the staff tag on somebody, then they'll often take ownership because I'm paid.
Right.
And then volunteers will let you have it. Just because I let it go doesn't mean I'm supposed to. Volunteer does it. Just because I didn't assume it doesn't mean you didn't steal it or hold it too long.
Yeah.
So this authority thing is pretty important. I think one of the authorities, there's two pieces that just in the essence of authority that are important to talk about. Number one, I think authority, it's a kissing cousin to accountability. Because if I have authority without accountability, then I end up in abuse. If I have authority with too much accountability, or so if there's let me back up. If there's accountability with no authority, then that's also abuse.
Yeah.
So the abuse sits on either side, and these two things kind of have to work in context. I can't have all the authority and have no one holding me accountable.
Yeah.
But also don't hold me accountable for something you're not going to let me do.
Yeah. That, I think we probably as leaders have all experienced both of those, but man, how frustrating is it when you're told to do something or said, hey, I'm going to relinquish authority to you to do it, and then not actually get to do it. It's natural to want to go back and to fight for that authority back, or to, seem like there's a lot of issues that surround that.
Well, since you said that, I'll just say anytime, no matter what position I'm in, when I've been the boss, when I've been the bottom, anytime I pursue authority, then I'm in trouble.
So true.
Because pursuing authority, pursuing position, Jesus talks about don't walk in the room and sit at the top of the table.
Right.
You sit at the bottom and let somebody promote you. Proverbs, it says that my gift will make a way for me and I'll stand before kings. If I do what I'm supposed to do, then I'll be promoted. But when I pursue authority, there's a pride issue going on there.
Yeah.
And I don't say that, look, I'm going to say that as the guy that has pursued authority a lot of his life. I spent a lot of time always trying to get the next guy's job. Not necessarily wanting his job, not wanting him to have, but I needed to the competition piece in me. There was an unhealthy competition in my life, and it sometimes would come out in anger growing up, or even early in ministry, and I had to achieve, and I needed that, so I would pursue authority. I would try to take authority that wasn't mine to take.
Wow.
Assume it.
Yeah, Tim, how do you harness it? Like we're talking about, how do you harness it, but not overthrow somebody, or how do you manage your authority without it becoming a bad thing?
Well, let's first, how about if we start at the top first?
Okay.
Because let's talk about when I'm leading somebody, exercising healthy authority first. Because again, if I steal it, because when I have the authority, if I hold it all, then that's the first place that authority is stolen in a church or in an organization or in a family, is by me holding on to authority that I should let go of. More churches their growth, their advancement is stopped because people won't release authority. They hold it too close. They don't trust people. That says that I'm paranoid and I don't trust people. That's a sign of paranoia, that I don't release authority. Now, some paranoia is natural for whatever reason, and some is earned because I've been hurt in the past, but it's still paranoia. That it's an unhealthy paranoia.
Yeah.
If you read the book, Overcoming the Dark Side of Leadership by McIntosh and Rima, they talk about one of the dark sides in there that they mention is the paranoid leader. So authority, first of all, for it to be healthy, there has to be a release component. And so for me, if I'm the senior leader, I have to, when I'm releasing authority, I have to not just say how I'm going to do it, but I have to give you, it means that when you do it, I have to give you credit for it. I can't take credit for what you did.
Yeah.
Because I've taken your authority back.
Yeah. That's a great reminder. For all of us as leaders, is to, part of leadership is sharing, part of healthy leadership is sharing the credit of when we achieve, we all achieved. And oftentimes the truth is, it's not just, it's the weight of achievement is not on me, it's those around me that helped us achieve it.
Well, if you look back in history and you look at the leaders we all want to be, the ones we always are excited about, the ones we look up to, you know what? They always bring people around. They always bring other people up on the stage for the win.
Right.
And they always stand alone in the time of when there's a mistake and they own the mistake. They protect people who may have misused often, or they protect people who are still learning how to use authority, because I used my authority by giving them authority and it didn't go well, that's my fault. But I used my authority and I gave them authority, and look at what they did. Wow. Is the win. So there's that piece. I think the other, how do I know when to pass authority on? One of the things that we say, and this is something I learned from a mentor of mine, is that we use what we call the 70% rule. When you can do it 70% as well as I can, I actually need to let it go, because you won't learn the other 30%, because I'll always keep that.
Yeah.
So I have to let you do it. You'll also learn more in that 30%, because we've been doing it together. You've been watching me or whatever. So when you can do it 70% as well, I have to let it go. And if I don't let it go, then I can't. Here's what happens as a leader: when I release authority, my authority expands. It doesn't retract. We sometimes think, well, I've given it away, so I've lost authority. No, the truth is, my authority has expanded. Yeah. Because you're touching things that I couldn't touch, maybe just because of sheer time.
Right.
So there's an expansion of authority. So that's from the top side. I have to make sure that I'm not stealing authority. Now, to your question, because really you probably have been thinking about this topic more from the subordinate role than the senior role.
True.
Which we should think about, but eventually you're going to be you may be in that senior role. Most people are moving forward, and I want to be careful. What I found is that early, when I was not dealing well with authority from the bottom, when I got into top to a higher position, I didn't manage the authority below me well.
Mm.
And it's really, because the truth is, if we're not careful, authority is addictive. I need all the authority. We want to have all the authority and all the power.
Yeah, man, that is so true. It really can, especially for those of us who are driven and like to get things done. Having the authority can really become, I hate to say it like this, it can become a drug. It can become addictive.
Absolutely.
You want more of it, and you want to be able to use it, and you want people to know that you have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think John Maxwell talks about the positions of leadership, and when you're just a leader from title only or position only, really it's almost as if it's like you're only a leader because someone's given you the amount of authority. And so we use it as a crutch to what we think in our mind to expand our leadership, but leadership and authority are not synonymous.
Well, we're talking about the church. Look, Jesus gave authority while he was on earth. He gave authority he says, I give you authority.
Yeah.
And he sent out the 72. There's that moment. He's on the Mount of Transfiguration, right? With Peter, James, and John. He comes down. He had given these guys authority previously, and they're down there still trying to heal the sick. Now, there's this boy they can't heal. They haven't learned how to do that. But they're exercising, and he doesn't come down and say, you were doing what you shouldn't have been doing. Instead, he instructed them on how to use it better.
Mm.
He helped them to use their authority better. He didn't take it back. Authority, it's kind of like water. If it sits still too long, it'll become stagnant.
Yeah.
So authority needs to move to stay clean. It needs to flow. It should flow down. It should flow up. Jesus shares his authority with us. We should give it back to him. There's this authority needs to be moving to stay clean.
That's really good.
I tell the story in one of the classes I teach about stagnant authority, about a Sunday school teacher. I was at there was this church we were at, and we go to do these consultations. We look everywhere. We look in all these rooms, and you get to the Sunday school class, the door's locked. And I asked Pastor, "Hey, can I have the key?" Pastor says, "I don't have a key."
Uh-oh.
I'm like, "What?" He says, "Well, Sister so-and-so has been the Sunday school teacher in that class for umpteen years, and she was tired of people coming in there, so she had her husband put a lock on the door, and she's the only one who has a key." That's perverted, stagnant authority. She has stolen authority
Yeah.
because of tenure. And when authority stays in one place too long, it becomes stagnant. That's why that accountability piece is important, because anytime I'm in accountability, when I meet with my accountability partner, I'm laying my authority down and saying, okay, let's look at this situation. Before I pick it back up, I have to analyze, well, have I used it? What have I done with it?
Yeah.
So as a staff guy, in your case, part of you keeping authority and making sure you don't steal it is periodically going and saying, okay, I'm laying my authority down and saying, okay, how am I doing with this?
Yeah.
Now, I may not lay the whole batch down, but at the end of a project, okay, at the end of an assignment, I lay the authority for that back down. Now, it's then up to the senior leader whether or not to keep it,
right,
or to release it back.
Right. One of the things I do almost on a weekly basis is I approach my pastor and just ask a couple questions. And one of them is, what am I doing that I'm not supposed to be doing? What am I doing that I'm doing well because that's what you asked me to do? And then remind me. I'm sure if Pastor David's listening to this, he's going to chuckle. But I ask him all the time, what is it that you have asked me to do? And I'm asking because I want to make sure that that's all that I'm doing. Not from a stance of I don't want to do any more, but it's for me a reminder that, hey, I'm here because my senior leader has asked me to be a part of what he's wanting to see happen at the church. And for me, what it all really boils down to is it's a reminder for me that, hey, I'm submitted unto him.
Right.
And the only authority I have is authority that he's given me. And so when I go to be the associate pastor at the church, I'm not just the associate pastor of the church. I'm really Pastor David's associate. And I'm his representative.
I think so from a subordinate role, the word, if we're not going to be stealing authority, the word is deference. Is that I have to defer. And honestly, this kind of got under my skin. There was when I was in the secular world, when I was bivocational ministry, I was leading. If I gave somebody a task and they were leading a meeting, I didn't want to come in. I didn't want to interrupt their meeting because I wanted to watch them lead the meeting. I wanted to see how they were doing. This is part of my development of them. But and that's the way I did it, and I just assumed that that's the way it ought to be done everywhere. But as I moved further into some different cultures, and one of the things in the church culture, and I'm not saying that was right. I'm just saying that's the way I did it. And but I didn't want you. Don't come in and interrupt my meeting. This is my meeting.
Yeah.
You've come into my room. I have the authority here.
Yeah. I know where this is going.
You can already see that, right? This is not good. So, but what I've had to learn is, when that authority comes in, for me, at the first easy opportunity to say, "Welcome. Is there anything you'd like to say?" And I've given them the authority.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't held it. Authority has to be held with loosely. I didn't hold on to it, and it's given me the chance to go. And them to say, there's things when it starts going awry, I'll snap. I have had a habit, and I struggle with not snatching that authority, just grabbing the reins and muscling it to get it to what I want. But it's what I know that doesn't work. So you have to hold authority loose. And as a subordinate, when I have to give that, I have to defer. They have the right.
Yes.
And I have to recognize that, and I have to give them that.
Yeah. Tim, something I've experienced, and I'm like you in the sense that I've not always done well with this.
I don't know that I do well all the time now. I know that some of the, you can know the right answers and not always practice them well.
Yeah. I know that one thing I'm learning right now is that I don't have to be paranoid about my senior leader snatching authority back when I honor him with the authority that he's given me. So when you're talking about when the senior leader or just a leader above me walks into the room, just me being okay with saying, just recognizing, hey, so-and-so has walked in the room. Is there anything you want to say, or just making room? Oftentimes that leader never wants to say anything. There's hello, Taylor's leading the meeting. And what I learned on the back end is that gives me far more credibility with that leader than me being able to lead that entire meeting with them not having to have any input at all.
What I have learned is the guys that when I start doing this over time, you'll see guys walk into the room and they'll just go, they'll give me a signal before because I'll make eye contact and they'll give me a signal. No, don't want. I want to be a fly on the wall. So part of this is there's a relationship piece here.
Yeah.
So much of this comes back to the way we treat people. Interpersonal skills are critical in authority, and I think, I honestly think that authority in the church and in churches and congregations is a challenge. We don't always have healthy flow of authority. First of all, we don't even always know where the authority lies. I think as leaders, if I'm one of your questions, am I doing what you want? We have to make clear where our authority lies. But as a senior leader, I also have to make clear where the authority lies. Here's Tim. If nobody's doing it, I'll pick that baby up. But maybe I'm snatching it out of somebody's hand. I just didn't realize it was lying there. They just may not have exercised it.
Sure.
So not always being clear on where the authority lies. So a guy like me would walk in and go, well, nobody's doing, so I just snatch it up. And this is that take charge moment. It's what we were talking about. If nobody's driving the bus in a meeting, I'll just, because I don't want to meander. I did that recently at this thing. I just kind of overshot something because it bugged the tar out, and I the reality is those are moments of pride because it's become about me, not about others.
Yeah.
So, we can't I would say one of the tricks maybe tricks is the wrong word, but when we're talking about authority, I said earlier, don't pursue it. We don't pursue authority; we receive authority.
Mm. How do you receive authority?
That's a good question. Receiving authority, first of all, means that there has to be a clear moment. There has to be a clear transfer. Now, if I come into a church as a pastor, the moment I receive the title as pastor, I have received a level of authority. There's authority that comes with the position. Sometimes it's because I have the position, there's authority that comes. I have to receive it. I actually can't go out. I don't want that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I've had to work with leaders. They say, well, no, I don't want to do that. But that comes with the job.
Right.
You don't have a choice. That comes with the job, man.
You want the paycheck.
You want that? You get this.
Yeah.
You can't separate those two.
Right.
The believer who says, I don't want authority. I don't want responsibility to share the gospel. But I want authority to see miracles in Jesus' name. Mm-hmm. You don't get the authority of Jesus' name without the responsibility that goes with the blood that was shed for everybody.
Yeah.
When there's that moment in Ezekiel, Ezekiel, he's talking about the watchman on the wall. Not only is there responsibility to cry out, but when you cry out, there's a voice of authority that's supposed to give warning.
Yeah.
You don't get responsibility without authority.
Yeah. That right there is a whole podcast on itself. Several years ago, I read a book from, I believe it was Bill Johnson, and whatever your thoughts on Bill Johnson is, the book was a phenomenal thought-provoking book about the authority and assignment of Adam and Eve, and how they were given the authority to go replenish the earth, mm-hmm. right? And they were given authority over all the animals and all these things. The Lord, the Father, gives them the authority of, but He sets their boundaries within the garden. And Bill Johnson talks about how God gives us authority and then gives us an assignment. And the authority is already there. God told Adam and Eve, go replenish the earth. populate the earth, but he put them in a garden that had boundaries. And just from that book, I remember thinking, if I will be faithful in the assignment that I've been given, God will let me yield that authority. He'll expand the boundaries. And so that's a good thought there.
Well, that's exactly all authority only reaches so far. And how I manage this authority determines how much more I get. If I'm in this box, I can steal I can pack the box full, but it doesn't expand my reach.
Right.
It actually just clutters the box.
Yeah, it's so true.
So what we do with that authority, practically, the practical stuff, number one, handle authority with humility. Handle it with humility. Don't pursue it. Receive it when it's given. Be willing to give it back and lay it down. No matter what level of leadership, hold authority with a loose hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because your authority can't expand without you releasing it, so you can gain more. You can only hold so much. Another practical piece. Be clear. If you're receiving authority, ask clarifying questions on the scope of your authority. How long do I have this authority?
Yeah, that's good.
Who's subject to this authority?
Right.
Where do you want me to use this? When do I?
Yeah,
when?
Those are great questions.
Again, be willing to lay it down. Now, the flip side of that is when you're giving authority, help answer those questions.
Yeah.
Answer those questions. When you're meeting with a volunteer who's going to lead the nursery or going to lead the parking lot ministry, okay, here's your authority. Here's what I need you to do. And when you reach this, when it passes this, then this is the next. This is where that authority. This is where the chain is. Go to this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So establish clearly. Set the boundaries. Be clear about it. And for me, that picture of where we grew up down in the southeast Texas, there was a lot of stagnant water.
Yes.
The marshes, and the picture of moving versus stagnancy is probably one of the most powerful images for me when I think about authority, and the idea that authority needs to be moving to stay healthy. So keep the authority moving in your church, in your life. And how is that? Lay it down and pick it back up. In my home, to lay it down. All right, Rachel, that's submission to. That's the spiritual discipline of submission.
Yeah,
is what that is.
Yeah.
So keep authority moving. As a matter of fact, I would say if I would, the big question that I would even say today is and talking to leaders and even you, I would ask the question: how do you? If I was going to ask you one question on authority for your church and for your team, is how do you keep authority moving so that it can stay healthy and clean?
That's a great question, Tim.
So what's your takeaway today?
I think, we so often, I'm so notorious for this, so often think about authority only from the receiving side of it and not necessarily giving it away. And I have lots of volunteers that work with us at the church, and just remembering that I give authority. Whether I recognize it or not, when I engage a volunteer to come on board with us, I'm handing them a piece of authority. And so being more clear on it, and being more clear not only what I expect out of them, but just the fact that I'm extending authority. So not for them, but for everyone else around, so that they know, like, Pastor Taylor's asked this person to do this. That's a reminder for me, that clarity there.
I think it's really funny, though, because when we came into this conversation a half hour ago, you're thinking about authority from me not stealing it from above.
Right.
And yet your takeaway is, I've wrestled with this, but I forget about the other side.
Yeah.
Authority, it really is, it's a two-way street.
It is, yeah.
And if we don't remember that, then we always will end up in trouble when dealing with authority.
Yeah. Tim, it's been a great session.
Yep. All right.
See you next time.
See you next time, buddy.
Thank you for joining us today on the Advancement Podcast. The show notes are available on our website at www.advancement.cc, along with other resources. Again, this is Taylor Schote on behalf of Tim Ware and the entire advancement team. We want you to remember that you are meant to advance.